Hey guys, it's Drew again. If you want to learn or improve on a skill, you look at the best of the best to try to improve what you can do, pick up any tips from the masters of what they do. Well, if you were a little kid between, say, 1958 and 1964, and you want to learn how to hit better, you look no further than Stan Musial. Let's check it out. So when I say I wanted to learn and improve between those years, it's not that there weren't other great hitters, but we kind of look back at history and we look at a time where you sort of lump people together. But if you're looking at the greatest hitters of the time and say, well, there's Joe DiMaggio. Well, if you're in 19 say 58 or 59, Joe DiMaggio was like the guy that your dad liked. Retiring almost a decade earlier, and you can say, well, there was Hank Aaron and Willie Mays or Roberto Clemente, and all those guys are great players, no doubt, especially through history. But as far as the established players, by the end of the '50s, they were all coming in. They were all great players, but they weren't at the end of their careers yet. They were halfway or towards the first third of it, and there were other great hitters. But as far as pure hitters at that time, it was probably two. There was Ted Williams in the American League and Stan Musial in the National League. And I've done a comparison and contrast between the two as people in their history, and while their histories are very coincided in the way that they developed as players, there was definitely difference in the way that their personification towards the public. And Stan was kind of that dad player. He was out there and he's smiling all the time, and he was always doing he was he was a friendly, the guy that you felt like you knew, until Ted Williams was a little more ornery and a little more standoffish, and he didn't have the same reputation with the media. And I'm not putting down Ted Williams at all, but people, companies, they capitalized on the two parts that I already mentioned about Stan Musial. They capitalized on the fact that he was the greatest hitter coming towards the end of the career within that few year bubble that we talked about, late 50s and early 60s, and B, he was a super friendly, outgoing. He just had this thing that they could commercialize on. So what I wanted to do was not talk about his statistics, because you could look him up and you probably know him better than I do. What I wanted to talk about was just some of the pieces that I have in my collection where companies used Stan Musial and this image that he had to try to sell their products, of course, because they're companies, but using it, with teaching kids in how to hit. So I have a few different items I just wanted to show off. The first one, I have this little booklet. This booklet came out in 1959, and it says it right there on the thing. How to play, wait, how the major leagues play baseball, and it's just a tip by tip little thing. It's got these little kind of silly cartoons. It's very geared towards kids. It's got Stan Musial's record page, and then down in the bottom it says through 1958. So this was in 1959 it came out, and it's got different. Tips, like you've got base running and you've got different positions, second base, third base, outfield, whatever, and then of course at the end it's just general hits. It doesn't really say anything about Stan Musial except what's on the cover, and then of course in the back it's got an advertisement for Stan Musial. Stan the Man equipment, and it's got those beautiful gloves, and as a Stan Musial collector, it's one of those pieces there's cards that came on the box that the glove came in, and I know a few people that have a few of those. I don't have any. I would love one. They're just beautiful cards, or the full box, and it's one of those pieces. But this is what was in those boxes is these gloves, and this was put out by the Rawlings Company, which of course were producing those gloves. And excuse me, it's just really kind of cool to see this. And as a little kid, I can see a little kid, putting this in his back pocket, or going down and reading this, behind a school book when they're supposed to be studying, and sort of that thing, just where their focus was so on their next game, or getting out into the sandlot, or playing, or whatever. And I just thought that was kind of a neat piece. Another one, same thing. This is Stan the Man's hit record, and you've seen this before, back before I redid my wall. This was up on the wall. And this is an actual vinyl record. I've taken the record out. I won't usually do this, but this was a vinyl record that you could play. It was and it was an interview between Stan Musial and Joe Garagiola about hitting, and it has all these different tips and stuff. And it's very sort of, honestly, it's kind of dry to listen to. I've heard a version of it, but it came along with this step by step fold out, and it talks about how to hold the bat, how the grip is, and it folds out big, and I think this is kind of neat, and a little shout out to my good friend Hugo, because this was obviously taken in spring training, because in the background you can see all the palm trees, but still this is just a neat thing, how to stand, and it goes on in the back, and the picture of the cover is really neat because it's got Stan and of course a little kid, how to hold the bat, and then on the back again, this is at the after his this was in 1964, so this is just after he retired, and this is all of the records that he held at that point in time, and again, it was just a neat thing, and this was put out by the Phillips Petroleum Company, and it says right on the cover, you can available through your Phillips 66 dealer, so you could get these at gas stations, and I think that's kind of neat, that you could go somewhere and find that. So it wasn't just beef jerky they were selling, but anyway. And then the last thing I have is just an official guide, and this was put out by the Sporting News, and this is from 1964. Again, right after he retired, and on the picture, it's got a picture bigger than life, signing an autograph for a kid. Remember, Stan, everyone knew who he was. They knew his records. They're printed and everything. But what are they showing? Not his swing. They're not showing him in the game. They're showing him taking time to sign an autograph for a little kid, looking up in awe at him. And I think this is a great illustration of that kind of a thing that they used. And this is kind of a tribute, just the cover, towards Stan Musial and the career that had just ended, going into the 1964 season. As far as what it is, it's just a book, and it's got statistics, and it's got pictures, all the teams, different things. And it's kind of neat, top players, and as the top player. In fact, this is really neat. It's a really young picture of Carl Yastrzemski, who's the top hitter of the American League the previous year, and it goes all the way through into international leagues and the Mexican League and minor leagues and the best players. And to be quite honest with you, at my age, and there's no way I could read that print without some sort of magnification, because it is really, really small. But still, it's just kind of neat, and it's really more about baseball and the statistics, and just one of those guides that you could have, or a kid could have, or anybody, a fan would have. But again, the tribute that they put on the cover of Stan Musial signing an autograph for a little kid, and Musial is just one of those guys that I don't know if he's forgotten, because we as collectors, we talk about how he's underrated or undervalued or whatever. But really, he was the king, especially if you were a National League fan back the late 50s, early 60s, of the pinnacle. He had achieved what he had achieved. He had his World Series championships. He had his MVPs. He had his batting titles. He had this laundry list of statistics that he did, and all the records that he had set. And if you look through the record book now, it's 2024. If you look back now, you'll see him, and he's in the top 5 of all these lists. Well, look who's above him, and almost all of those, depending on what it is, are guys that hadn't done it yet. Mays and Aaron are on those lists over and over and over again, especially in the National League records. But Musial was number 1 up on top, or he's within the 5, and at the time he retired, he was number 1. So you know why he was such a revered player, and plus that his personality that would come out with that great smile and everything. So anyway, I just was looking through my room, and I found a couple of pieces I thought were interesting, and I just thought it'd be kind of fun to show them off. So I hope you enjoyed this, but I appreciate everything, again, all the support you guys have given. Until next time, you guys be good.